all at the annual press conference. So I therefore welcome you all. And I hereby welcome the party leader, Honorable Ahmad to get into the program in detail. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon to all of you. I want to welcome you to this press activity. As you know, each year, particularly towards the end of the year of our Congress, we would normally have a press conference in order to interact with the media and to discuss with Gambians the burning issues of the day. This is one such continuation of processes that we began some years ago. And for those media that are able to make it, I want to express our appreciation to all of you for coming. It is an immense pleasure and tremendous honor for me to welcome all of you, including GMC executive representatives who are there, to my house, the Alatin residence. Today we are gathered here on the eve of the impending National Congress, which is the 5th National Delegates Congress, with the theme, the need for a new paradigm in Gambian political constellation. Today we are strengthening and boosting our collective and noble determination to re-engineer and to reorganize our party, promote unity within our ranks, energize our branches, and work towards being among the leading force to reckon with in the country. I want to express profound appreciation for the work of the task force under the leadership of the GMC Deputy Party Leader, Dr. Drame, and also to all members of the National Executive for their individual and collective efforts so far. We have begun our journey to our target destination. And on my part, I shall continue to provide the needed support and encouragement on that journey. It is important to remember that the choices we make here, or we make every day as politicians, will contribute to the determination of the future for our party and the Gambia. We must therefore put our strongest foot forward to advance the best interests of our party and the country. Our Congress will represent hopes and aspirations of our members. It is a divine calling to which those of us who belong to it must answer to. We must be proud of our party and proud of our record while in government. I am saying this because there are so many political parties in the country. And I believe some of the political parties had the opportunity to represent their parties in cabinet. And so the test of competence and leadership has been proven by a number of some of us leading politicians who had the opportunity to participate in public affairs. And if we are going to be honest and objective, Gambians had the opportunity to judge each one of us who had the opportunity to serve in cabinet, particularly those of us who are at the forefront of national politics. So the efficiency and the competence and whatever you ask, you may talk about our party also, we would submit. Our presence in government would be a determination of how a GMC government, particularly if I happen to be the leader, will look like. As the Wolof say, that is the so that is really the situation. So in a brief, since we are approaching our conference, but we are also approaching the end of the year, with all the political controversy, I'm sure the media are waiting to ask some of those questions. We also must show what we have done when we were given the opportunity to serve this country. It is not about promoting oneself or one's party, but we must present an alternative and show Gambians, when we had the opportunity to serve this country, what did we do for the country? So that we'll have the moral authority to ask Gambians to entrust us with the responsibility to govern this country. We are able to say something because we have done something. And we will go into some of those, and then we'll go into the present and the future. We try to be as brief as we can. We must be proud, GMC must be proud as a party, of our record while in government. At each opportunity we had to serve in government, we proved our mettle, putting the national interest first above all else. When I was appointed, when I use the word I mean under the auspices of GMC. When I was appointed Minister of Interior in 2017, a position of tremendous trust bestowed upon me by His Excellency President Barrow, I held the burden of our party in cabinet. This was one of the most dangerous periods in our political history. Our sovereignty was at risk, and we were on the brink of civil war. Many supporters of the then ruling party were armed, ready for sustained insurrection against the new government. Some areas of the country transformed themselves into a potential dissident enclave, setting foundations for long-term instability on treasonable ground propensities. Tribal sentiments were high, and a blanket sense of revenge and fear enveloped the nation. Also at the time, we did not yet command the full loyalty of the entire national security and defense establishment. The political climate was most volatile, and the nation was sitting on a powder cage, ready to explode. It was under this complex, pernicious era of our history that I was tasked with leading the onerous duty of building internal security, creating national stability, rule of law, peace, and nurturing conditions under which the new government would be capable of asserting its full authority and control over all peoples and every part of our sovereignty. Using assets, resources, and instruments of the law, we embark on the delicate policy of pacification, reconciliation, and enforcement, all at once, because we did not have the luxury of time. This was how the new government was able to overcome and uproot the illegitimate resistance to its authority. We had to deal with the sensitive issue of missing persons who were deemed victims of enforced disappearances, and quickly arrested the junglers, many of whom were fleeing the country to escape culpability. It was my target, it was my priority at the time, to ensure that those who butchered, tortured, and killed Gambians were arrested and would not leave the country, so that we can put them to book. This is how we were able to get the junglers arrested and brought many of them before the TRRC, including many other criminals. At a time when they were running and hiding, at a time when there were cutlass and other armed weapons scattered all over the country, ready for war against the new government. At the same time, I turned my attention to the important issue of security sector reform. While turning my attention to the security sector reform, I also had to ensure that missing persons, people who disappeared during the dictatorship, were also looked into. We invited the Americans. With the president's support, I invited the CIA and the others to look for areas where there allegedly were mass graves into wells, into forests, using forensic evidence to find out exactly where these people were. And also set up a missing persons task force at the police headquarters in Banjul for information and for subsequent action. At the same time, while this was happening, we knew that the problem of the country was security, because the security were so politicized, and they were so politically distanced away from the people. So it was necessary that we reform the security sector as a matter of urgent priority. While restoring law enforcement agencies such as the Gambia Police Force, their statutory responsibilities. When we came to power, everywhere you go, the armed forces, they had checkpoints everywhere, and they were everywhere. It was necessary that we restore those responsibilities back to the police force, because the Police Act and the Constitution of the Gambia grants the police the primary responsibility of internal security, and not the national armed forces, whose responsibility was to protect the Gambia in times of war. So I, literally with the support of the president, removed all of the armed forces back into the barracks, removed them from checkpoints and replaced them with the police force, so that civilians will feel, Gambians will feel now we are in an age of democracy, that they can now feel that their rights will be respected and not be intimidated by the presence of guns at every movement. This entailed withdrawing the armed forces completely from civilian space and empowering the police high command with a reinvigorated sense of pride and authority and absolute control over domestic security. Initial policy measures on security sector reform included a thorough assessment of our national security system and infrastructure, and a thorough assessment of our national security system and infrastructure, and national security sector assessment report was produced. For the first time, we took an audit of national security in this country and created a report which became a policy document for the Gambia government. Now, beyond that, a report was also produced to achieve this. With the security sector assessment report, we were in a position to know for the first time in our country what are our actual security requirements that this country needs in terms of domestic security and also external security. That is both for internal law enforcement agencies and also for the armed forces. To achieve this, with the President's consent, I approached the UNDP, United Nations, to help provide an international expert on SSR, technical assistance, with proven experience in a developing context such as the Gambia's, and this was done. Under his guidance, the report was conducted, leading to the appointment of a national security advisor and the launching of the National Security Sector Reform Program. I left the ministry in 2017, and upon my resumption of duties as Special Advisor to the President on Governance and Policy at State House, I supervised the completion of an essential component of the SSR, that is the drafting of the National Security Policy and the National Security Sector Strategy Policy. Both documents today represent the main cornerstone of security and defense policy of the Gambia. So, your party, GMC, while in cabinet, has contributed towards the development of the Gambia's national security policy today. That is what we use as a country. As Special Advisor on Policy and Governance at State House, I work very closely with the President on government-wide activities covering all sectors, and also worked with the ministries, departments, and agencies on aligning sectoral strategies and programs with the National Development Program, NDP. As the political head of the newly created Department of Strategic Policy and Delivery, I led a team whose main task was to ensure delivery of presidential priority programs on national development, ensuring synergy, teamwork, and coordination and accountability. As part of the NDP facilitation, upon the President's instruction, I led a strong delegation, a very strong delegation comprised the Finance Minister, Governor of Central Bank and others, to the IMF World Bank at Washington, D.C. to negotiate both debt relief and debt cancellation at a time when the GDP to debt ratio was 110%, one of the highest in Africa. Our debt ratio was among the highest. As a result, we didn't have enough money. The Gambia government didn't have enough money to invest in education, in health, and other social services, because we were overburdened with paying debt. So the President tasked me with the duty to go to Washington in order to talk about debt relief and debt cancellation. And after a number of days negotiating with with the Gambia's creditors, Bretton Woods, the World Bank, the IMF, the African Development, many of them in Washington, Rand conference, Cleveland conference, we succeeded in securing debt relief for the Gambia. First time. This was able to free hundreds of millions of dollars in the hands of the Gambia government to invest in road construction, to increase salaries, into healthcare, into education, and so forth. So this was also an effort that your party represented in cabinet was able to achieve, to provide debt relief for the Gambia at a time when we were heavily belaboring under the debt crunch. We succeeded in achieving debt relief at a roundtable negotiation in Washington, enabling us the needed fiscal space to invest in productive sectors, stabilize economic fundamentals, and grow the economy. The Gambian economy started its journey towards recovery until the malaise of COVID-19 and the Ukrainian conflict, which disrupted global supply chain networks with its intrepid, lingering impact on all economies, including ours. Nation building is a continuous process, and most importantly, a collective effort. Economic fundamentals do not care about which tribe or region you come from, your religion, gender, or political affiliation. The economy affects all equally. That is why we do not believe, we at GMC, do not believe in the distorted politicization of the economy, because we are all affected by what happens to the economy. So what affects everybody should be everybody's business, and should be everybody's duty to solve. And that is why we believe in solving the economic malaise of this country. Everybody has a role to play, and that is why we support government's development program, because it is about economy, it's about jobs, it's about healthcare, it's about education, it's about roads, it's about employment. All these are things that are very important. We can have our differences, but on issues on national development, there should be no politics, because it is a responsibility for all Gambians. This is why we do not believe in the distorted politicization of the economy. We believed that as stakeholders in the economy, we owe a duty to our country to support the economic development efforts of the government, including behind-the-scenes consultations, advice, and collaboration on development issues. As new Minister of Security, migration was the first issue the European Union and the United States confronted me with. My first appointment that I granted to the EU ambassador at the time, the topic of discussion was nothing but migration. How it was important for us to allow them, for them to deport Gambians and for us to accept this deportation. That was the first meeting. And my first meeting with the American ambassador at the time was how we should grant travel permit to Gambians who had exhausted all of their legal remedies and should be deported country. So you see, there are different priorities. Their priority was migration, but our priority at the time was to stabilize our country. We're just coming in a new government with a lot of insecurity. The economy was bad. Unemployment, don't talk about it. The health sector, everything was bad. So we had a different policy priority, which had to deal with our economy, and they had their own national interest, which had to do with migration. And at the very first meeting, I'm speaking to the whole world here in this internet age. What I told the Attila Laios, who was then the ambassador at the time for EU, that this is not the priority of the Gambia government. And if you have any other topic to talk about, I'm willing to talk about it. Migration is off my table for now, because it is not a priority for our government. And when the American ambassador also came, this was during our first meeting was, we have several Gambians who need travel permits, who should be deported back, because some of them have served their terms with a judicial recommendation to be deported back to Gambia. We have problems with the embassy, they are not giving travel permits. So Madam Ambassador, thank you for your visit. Migration and deportation is not on my desk. If you want to talk about how America can help us strengthen our democracy, particularly at this volatile time, I am ready to discuss. If there is nothing else, I don't have the mandate to discuss about bringing Gambians home now. It's not our priority. And that was how that matter stood, until the Americans later, after 2 or 3 months later, had to threaten to sanction the Gambia government with a travel ban if we don't allow what they considered people, criminals who had served in their jails to return home. So the position of the Barrow government at the time, when I was Minister of Interior, was to stabilize the country, grow the economy, and then give the Gambia a path of sustainability. And this was what we worked upon until the time that I left the Minister of Interior. Notwithstanding, even we as a government, and I as a minister, realize that migration is a global phenomenon and a pressing global concern. So we can't just brush it off forever. We have to deal with it. The Gambia, like hundreds of countries in the world, has been a member of what is called the Valletta process and must fulfill its international obligations under that process. Regrettably, when I assumed office as Interior Minister in charge of both migration and immigration, the Gambia had no policy on migration. So if there was no policy on migration, how can I even deal with migration in the first place? There was none. Under 22 years of the dictatorship, the Gambia had no migration policy. So first I had to develop a migration policy as a ministry, and for the first time in the history of this country, we formulated a migration policy that was nationally validated and even recommended by the United Nations Development Programme and also the IOM. The IOM, which was the implementing wing of the European Union. So with the migration policy now, we have a guideline and a directive as how we should go ahead. So for the first time again, your party in government created the first migration policy of the Gambia, which the government is currently using on migration programs, migration activities. This was preceded by migration assessment report. Now we have a policy. My priority with the President's approval was to extend emergency help to our citizens who were trapped in Libya and elsewhere in the deserts and were dying, and those who were jailed in Libyan prisons, in Sirte, in Tripoli and elsewhere. At the time when the Arabs were, or the human traffickers were killing them, and we saw some of those images on TV, on social media, torturing them with candle, burning candle on their backs and all this sort of thing. We also, and Gambians in Libya and Niger and on the desert were crying for help for the government to bring them home. It was difficult because many of them were also in Libyan prisons, and Libya did not have a recognized government at the time. You had in Tripoli the main government, then you had rebels controlling other parts of Libya. So how do you negotiate when you have Gambians in all these prisons, in the rebel control areas and the government control areas? That is where I flew down to Rwanda. After several diplomatic consultations with my colleague in Libya, we had a meeting in Rwanda because I couldn't go to Tripoli. I didn't even feel safe I could go to Tripoli at the time. So at a meeting in Rwanda, where we sealed the necessity of securing the support of the Libyan government in Tripoli and working with Egypt to secure Gambians who were also jailed in Sirte and other rebel-held areas, to secure them home, and then work with the IOM to send a flight to get our Gambians there, and travel document issued by my minister at the time. That was why we were able to bring down nearly 2,000 Gambians from Libya to save them from death, from imprisonment and torture. And I personally went to welcome them on behalf of the President at the airport. This was also done. That was the only issue of migration that I worked on as minister, but not repatriating Gambians from Europe. And we sought the help of the European Union to charter flights and bring them back home, because we must bring our citizens and protect them against perils wherever they may be in any part of the world. And as minister, with the President's support, it was my policy that every Gambian in any part of the world must be protected, must see the benefits of the benefit and the extension of state support whenever you need the support of the state. And then we had a plan also in place to place immigration officers at every embassy in the Gambia, every consulate, so that we will be able to reach Gambians and offer them identification cards in those foreign countries, and also change their passport in those foreign countries. Those were among our plans. And we could not achieve those plans because I had to leave the ministry. So that we want to make it easier to bring Gambians closer to home with our foreign missions, so they can have every service, relevant service necessary that they should have in the Gambia provided in our foreign missions, which include dealing with documentation of nationality, changing of passports, whether they are lost or expired, acquiring national identification documents, and so forth and so forth. Because a government exists, and as public servants, we are in cabinet, in government, to serve the people, and not to serve ourselves. And that was why we had that policy to take place. And we were working on the plans and had very strong, good discussions with the then Minister of Foreign Affairs, Honorable Usain Dabo, who will bear testimony to this, because I'm speaking in public, that the meeting I have with him in his office, to allow foreign missions to house my immigration officers abroad, to offer consular service to Gambia in terms of documentation. And Honorable Usain Dabo was open to this idea. So we had so many plans to bring government to the door of every government, both at home and outside. And some of these plans, I'm sure, we will continue to pursue. I do not want to use some of these things, and there are many more. I could speak on many more. I could speak on we do. But those who would like to criticize us, or do not believe that we should join their parties instead of building our own, will twist and distort everything good we have done into negative, and everything we have done into opportunism. Government politics has to change, and we must change our mentality. For a Gambian, if you support any policy of the Gambia government, you must be an opportunist. Alio la mun delila lekam. Masakunda e kubedo ke iyafo, iko mu hasidoleti. Ibe masakunda le ne lekam. Fo do mol nyanda le la masakunda kele di akuya. Hana dañ wara he nguur su defee lu baax dañ ko war a wax waaye su defee naka sud noonu tam dañ ko war a wax waaye su nguur defee lu baax nga wax ko mu def naka sud noonu nga wax loolu tam ñu ne yaa inconsistent. You are praising the government today, tomorrow you are criticizing them. Then everybody is inconsistent. Because sabir kersa, you will praise your wife or your daughter or somebody else. Why shouldn't they feel you chastise them? That is human governance. Why am na ñoo xam ne moom ak yenn parti yoo xam ne soo demee rek nga ne government de Barrow def na lu baax ñu ne mu is now an opportunist. Why the next thing nga ne government war a def lii ñu ne he is flip-flopping ji kam mbuulam maalum Allah tam wala Kenya decide. So there are too many things we can talk about, but now let me come down to the theme of this year's Congress. The theme of this year's Congress is clear. It's simply it's about the need for a new paradigm in Gambian political constellation. There are too many political parties, too many. We have too many political parties in this country. And let's face it, there is very limited or recognizable ideological differences among all these political parties. And each of these political parties claim to exist for the interests of the Gambia. But what are our differences? Most voters cannot tell the difference between GMC and another political party because the lines are not very drawn, except empty criticism. Parola Mansakunda, Imam Beter, GMC, or Motor Better. You know, there are parties that believe they are Allah and Allah. You know, they are everything about them is perfect. And whatever you say about them, and if it is not okay, you must be wrong. That type of dictatorial politics also has to go. For us, GMC, we're independent-minded. We stand on our own, and we will do what we believe is in the best interest of this country. And we don't care whoever thinks otherwise. As long as we believe what we are doing best for the country, we will move on that. And that is the position of GMC, because we believe that politics of morality should be the future of this country and should be the future of this country. So, all these political parties coming down to that, I believe that GMC and those who think like GMC political party, and we can find them, should come together. Should come together in the form of very close working relationship or a merger. That is the new political paradigm we should establish. There is no point in everybody building your small hut when all the huts look alike and when occupants of the huts also look alike. Why don't you build a self-contained, a storey building that will accommodate everybody in one big family, rather than each of you in your small huts in your own separate islands? So we believe, like we said at the time of the coalition, that GMC was willing to dissolve itself and go into a new formation if only it is going to achieve national unity for us to root out dictatorship. That was what we stated earlier on. We were willing to forgo our ambition, and that's what we did. Again, GMC is willing to go into full union with any political party that shares our vision and that is willing to accommodate our vision as well for the Gambia. Because we do not exist simply because we want to exist. We exist because we want to work with Gambians and like-minded Gambians in civil society and within partisan political parties. We do not believe in power for its own sake. We believe in working together. So GMC believes it is time for political parties to reassess their positions and combine their energies where there's a substantial convergence of ideas. When you have substantial convergence of ideas, you should come together and form a stronger bloc, rather than creating individual blocks, dividing our attention, and so forth. And we are open, our doors are open for such discussions, for such consultations, and for such negotiations. And we extend this invitation to all political parties for an engagement into creating a greater union of unitariness, so that we can mount a stronger force to develop this country. And in so doing, we would be willing to drastically, to radically transform our formation into that greater, in favor of that greater formation for the welfare of the Gambia. Because we believe that it is only the Gambia that matters and nothing else. Because positions are transient. You are a minister today, tomorrow you are out. You are a director today, tomorrow you are out. You are a permanent secretary today, tomorrow you are out. But the Gambia is always here. And if we claim to represent that permanent Gambia, which will always be here, then we should always find a common ground of working together. Whether we like each other or not, whether we are comfortable with each other or not, we should get out of our comfort zone and disregard all those insignificant elements and come together in the interest of the Gambia. Even if it includes creating a stronger bloc in order to represent the mass of the people for collective development.
Thank you very much.
So now we will turn our attention to certain factors that GMC would like to see. One, national food self-sufficiency. We believe the most important thing confronting this country is food security. There's no food, there's no security of any sort. So the focus of any government, particularly a government in which GMC leads or is a part of, would be to ensure that we are able to feed ourselves as a nation, and we can, because we have the land and we have the water. We have the policies, but we are not implementing them properly. And we have a lot of Gambians who work in the Ministry of Agriculture and government areas who are very unfair to their own country because they are not sincere to their country and because they are most money for their pockets. The greatest wastage of resources in this country is at the Ministry of Agriculture, consistently for the past 20 to 30 years. And they have the highest qualified graduates in this country. So many PhDs and master's degrees at the Ministry of Agriculture. Still we are hungry. Still we cannot achieve food self-sufficiency. Something is fundamentally wrong with the system. I would clean the place totally. I would clean the place. I would totally clean the place. Because we cannot have PhDs and master's degrees at working with too many projects, millions of dollars, and yet the Gambia is not able to feed itself for even 30% of its food requirements. So what are these people doing at the Ministry of Agriculture? I mean, alinga nyonene bula, alinga nyonya kono jube bula. Nanyo wahante dega. Mununo neka Ministry of Agriculture ngay leka halis. Project bunyo, the first thing they do is to buy four-wheel drives and create per diems and all these sort of things. And all this project money go into their own administrative costs, forgetting about the farmers for whose purpose they are. I would seize all those vehicles from them. That is what I would do first. In fact, I will do away with four-wheel drives in government. Four-wheel drives in government. But those are matters we can come down to. I believe that government has too many vehicles, and many of those vehicles are useless. They are not needed. We should have a carpool and have an effective vehicle policy. Why do you need a Pajero? Why do you need a Prado running around from your home to office with all this fuel? Why do we need it? Why? Why all these vehicles on the road? Everywhere you go, Gigi, midnight, 3 o'clock in the morning, markets, you go everywhere, beach. Do we work at night? Do we work at the beach? Do we work at nightclubs? Do we work at markets? Do we work in the streets at midnight, 11 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, after work? What are you doing in your vehicle? Government asset? Government petrol? With vouchers? Let us be honest ourselves. These things must stop. But when you want to implement these policies, they call you a dictator. I want to be such a dictator. I want to be such a dictator.
Correct.
We need potable water. I went everywhere in this country. All over the country, I went to everywhere. There is no place in this country, no region I have not visited. Not once, not twice. Water is a problem. Access to potable water is a problem in this country. And we are driving 3 million, 4 million Pajero. You are going to visit farmers and you're going to visit Gambians all over the country. In your 3, 4 million vehicle, they don't even have water to drink. I think that should be a shame in today's age. Telephone allowance alone or fuel allowance alone. Farmers, we are approaching the trading season. When the trading season comes, farmers will weigh their groundnuts and sell to government or any other sources. Some of their entire farming period work, the monies that will be due to them when they sell their groundnut would be less than just the fuel coupon of some of the senior government officers. The cost of fuel coupon alone. We are not talking about other benefits. I mean, let us reassess ourselves as a developing country. It is not fair. It's not sustainable. Can we continue to do that?
No.
Your fuel allowance is $30,000 a month, $25,000 a month, fuel, from your home to the office. And from there, you gallivant all over the country, all over town, after working hours, using the very taxpayers' money to bluff around. GMC would confiscate any vehicle, particularly vehicles of that nature, after working hours, parked anywhere else. We'll have a special unit in the police force that is going to be looking at government vehicles that are gallivanting on private missions at different places. Primary healthcare and health sector. Too many women have died and continue to die out of labor. Too many people are dying out of stuff. Let us be honest with each other. I know that we are improving Edward Francis Small Hospital and elsewhere else. But alinga tonya fo nyoy. Mse lafi nyola nyaonya sinyo kanu nyaonya alinga tonya fo. Jada kende amu problème lo di jimbanko kambi. Beru geram problème bu la ci dekati fitay. So ninga xamne ñoo nek in charge. We are tired of all these nice speeches and all these figures. Infant mortality has gone down this percent. You know, we have defeated tuberculosis. This is that, this is that. All these nice statistics. Give me a break. People are dying. People can't afford medicines. There's a lot of medical tourism to Senegal. Many governments afara mintole eka afara Senegal. Nka batu dinde sinindi ne nyata kabla ainana. You know. Nka fure fongole barata Senegal. What's governments keep running to Senegal for medical reasons. And we know during the Jawara period, Senegalese used to come to the Gambia for medical and healthcare facilities, benefits. Today we have lost all that because we have people who are serving at very high level and misleading the president, misleading him. Every single criticism is considered opposition. So these are things that we should be honest. And we are not even fair to government. We are not even fair to the president. Because the president can only believe what he has been told by policymakers. He is not a god among a malaikati. He is not among a jinatinasi tarot. He is limited. He is sitting in his office. So we can blame him because he chose the ministers, but we must blame the very Gambian. Many along Gambian dumul lemu. Ebe doko ke kam masakundai. Ebe masakunda nakarikam. Ebe Gambian dumul nakarika. Ebe fani abata fele fani balfala. Mimi president of benda. Mowe krisi ko president of opposition of them. Alinga obula. If you cannot deliver, I'll fire you. There's no doubt about that. Correct? Because I'll deliver. And I know when I was in government, up to date, 8 o'clock we'll find the president at his desk. That man is never late. Never. I can tell you that. Allah will say President when a man 8 o'clock sharp president is at his desk. And I will say there why? Because I was special advisor to him. So someone down. And president doesn't go home before 5 o'clock. Until 8, 9. How do I know that? Because but how many of us, when we go to the market, especially our women folk, they go with their pants when they go to office, they put down their stuff and they go to the market. Before they come back 12, 1 o'clock. Afterwards, files are waiting for them. By 2, 3 o'clock, they are looking where to go home. When you go to offices, they spend 2-3 hours on breakfast. Go to any office, government office, they are busy on breakfast every morning. Before they will attend to you. 3-4 good hours. Wamu tahan oleh tuai. Lo wanyan tabalan. Wamu fufal kiale. Tulung ala mu kat tulung jut wamu jut ngali Gambia dulu. On the mean, that's going to stop. You will deliver or you will leave. There's no compromise about that. Mana to dia. Liga mo ñu indi ñu ñewon pour harito lolu indi ma. And you know what? Gameno left mo la do kula. Ikandida nyaawo nya ni kala do ko ke. Nimbe fa aussi ba fayde. Kadi Gameno manki tole.
There's no doubt.
Manki tole. So we will deliver and they will see. But you never get all this is not the president. Is the president asking you to have breakfast for 2-3 hours?
No.
Is the president asking you to come to office late?
No.
Did the president ask you to simple file that should be handled a day, a week? The president asked you to ask for incentive? Niman fendila file o tamala. At the corruption of the Bana civil service come. Niman fendaman in the what will file o tamala. Particularly if you have your money at Minister of Finance, the Auditor General. My goodness, you will run up and down for a battle. Even battle. Niman demand in the Jangan definitif. Jangan kalau donding, for donding di, for donding. So these are some of the things that we need to work on. But all this is not the fault of the president. Ali nga tonya funyo. Niya fo ko ebe president nya ni no le be place no. Ha be place no. Niya na jata fo. Bar mi tonya ando fo lan. Gambe non fo len na banko tinya fo nga na banko kan le ba. Ndax ñun dañ bu ka suñu rew. Why book you want Lisa? Why hell you never wax leneen? We always like to criticize the other one, but we don't want to look at ourselves. We must correct ourselves as Gambia and correct our attitude. That's why we call for morality. Because with morality in politics, all these things I'm talking about will stop. That is the missing link in Gambian politics. Sense of morality brings sense of responsibility. Sense of responsibilities brings commitment, and commitment brings results. That is all the root cause is all about morality. That's why we are fighting for morality. You know? So these are the issues. So we talk about primary education, high school education, university education. The quality of education is very bad. Very bad. Out of thousands, if you have 150, 200 with exceptional passes, the Ministry of Education is jubilating. We have 6% increment. In fact, of that 60%, 25% are women. Blah blah. Give us another fake and useless statistics again. It's a failure, ministry. Accept it. You have not done well. Tell governments you are not happy with the results, and you will do better than justifying with statistics. Last year we had 15%. This year we have improved by 17%. Look at the entire figure of people who have failed. Too much. Too many failure. Too many failure. Too many failure. And these are the people we rely on to develop the country tomorrow. We are sending half-baked citizens to take care of policy positions. No wonder we have a lot of failure at Ministry of Agriculture. And health sector is failing. Doctors are not happy. Nurses are not happy. Too much of opportunistic and bunch of useless people governing everywhere. Let's be honest with each other. So these are matters that we want to change. I think what Tonya for you. Then never be put in a because yalla ñepp la fi nekkal nak ala ben tol bele jam ala be momo kala men di momam ku no woto no when President Barrow was to be president nobody knew it was designed by Allah. So ali nga tonya fo ñoy ne ala be men kala men di be kala tile you Gambians, you cannot make me president. You are only instruments used by God to put me in power. So I'll tell you the truth, like it or not. And if I shouldn't be head of state, you Gambians cannot make it. It's in the hands of Allah. Allahumma malikil mulk tu'til mulk man tasha' wa tanzi'ul mulk mimman tasha'. That is what Allah says subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Imran. And that's what I believe in. So let us speak truth to each other. Alinga tonya fo ñoy nga stop masakundating ita fawdu ita membe la pla ita fawdu ni dara costume ko la douane costume joy costume ita sonna do ni korda san ila korda bale mo kema fulanati iko loya safanya akenye kemikrit mona to ko ngake kemiti biko inyenda tax men jole lafta wala tala on bangu dem kende ala diba mbebe masakunda sunya kan left right and center benga lo president damma. This country we are all responsible. What is happening in this country is a collective responsibility of all Gambians. And when we talk about tribalism, don't let me write all the fish out of it. when we talk about politics. Ni mantara na political party, ni mu dinkendo, dinkurumale. Ni mantara na political party, ni mu siyosi di ma akurumale. Bari ni benna political party, hana tara itala jawaya ta iblisti. Imu malay ko. Muntu mala ndel betonya fala nyoy. Ni ya fo ye kajafi, ko kana to nya fo. Fodum banko akadada, banko akadada fani yale kambang. Fo nyoni nene bang. Ali nga to nya fo nyoy. Nyim banko mo man siya moti jam. Mo la banko dia man tam bintati aman tiya moko. Dia damen dia nyembe dilla wala. And is our constitutional right as well. So we want to strengthen Gambian businesses. Nga menji jam. Nimman Gambian business all makoy. Banko titanato. Gambian businessmen and Gambian companies must be given primary support. Ndola media, ndole men kam. Wala mo ngaluwa nati. Membe Gambia business all fatam fanchera. Fatam fanso nati la ining foreign business all table. Kadu banko ila advantage nyanta siala wala di banko kata wakan. Bari ninga luwal kanyandi. Nga opportunity kanyandi between Gambian business and foreign businesses. What do we expect? How do we expect Gambian businesses to grow when they don't have funds? They don't have capacity. And they also don't have access to funds. Foreign businesses bring with millions of dollars. Small shop, you find, I'm not against Lebanese by the way, but a small shop, you go to a mini market, you go to Albert Market, you find another foreigner, small, competing with government and small businesses. There should be a peg. You want to contribute in the government economy and you are a foreigner, bring real money, so that you can generate employment and pay tax. But not some 1 million, 2 million, you fly from somewhere, then you create a small corner shop and compete against the Gambian when you have greater capacity. When will we grow Gambian millionaires? How many millionaires are we going to grow in that process? How can we have national economic independence when we continue to promote foreign businesses? Also in government procurement as well. All these are things that we need to change. Nyelmo kule de melanko anyanta kafali nyanta luwa sodola ni ilafta business wala nyimbanko kanjam and then imanke Gambia dinti if a company create like is in Dubai for example, it's in Saudi Arabia and many countries. Dubai is Dubai today, but let me tell you the practice in Dubai. When you want to form a company in Dubai, you need a Dubai national to sponsor you. You have to go through a Dubai national. Your company will be registered in the name of that Dubai citizen, and every year you will have to go and he has to review your business for you. Dubai is one of the most successful economies in the world today. Fast-growing economy. But in Dubai, there's a difference between a citizen of UAE and foreigners who are coming to invest. There is a gradation. And when you speak, these so-called economists, so-called Adam Smith economists in Africa, you cannot do that. We are going to protect Gambian businesses by giving them easy access, free custom, better custom and revenue access. And we are going to impose higher taxes on foreigners who are competing in sectors where Gambians are as well. This is what we are going to do.
Very good.
We need to do that. We need to build more Gambian millionaires. We need to build more Gambian businesses, and we need to provide more capital and greater access to, particularly the women folk. Gambian women need support. We need to give Gambian women support. We also need to preserve the environment. There's a lot. I'm sure questions will come around the question and answer session, but let me limit it here. The environment also. Municipalities are not working. Not knowing that environment you will tell that. Ningo men ko settle nenga kamfa. I feel like more time always like they ask me to clean your environment. Ninde kada minister. Get out here. Ninga sembo soto. Sembo me alon ko masukunda sembo lam. The health workers, the public health workers, me along with Biduna Kunyo Dekon. It will be compulsory for every house owner, whether you own the house or you are renting, ila korda banda yafita. Compulsory na wati, because banda wamu mobile that. We must cultivate a new sense of hygiene. It's necessary. And we must take care of our environment. We are cutting down our forests, bushfires are rampant, we are not cleaning anywhere. We are not also adapting. So I mean sama man na kando warata, you complain. Na bi dafa tanga torop, deka bi dafa tanga li. You're not tanggal dog yep. And we are not adapting. So environment is extremely important for us, preserving the environment, and we will do so through adaptation, through statutory means and so forth. And we'll fight corruption. Corruption is one of the biggest problems of this country. Can you remember for corruption or that? And corruption is at all levels. Niko corruption, Minister ni Managing Director level. Hani klako, ni bila do fama bije ikai ka foda ni manya na tambila. Ye security guard mentaraje ni mandu mani biala to sone tambita nyata men bibi. So corruption is at all levels, everywhere. It's so rampant in this country. Everywhere you go, there is corruption. So when we talk about corruption, let us look at ourselves. Let us not just look at the top. Because you give, you are corrupt. The one who receives is also corrupt. There will be no corruption if those who give don't give. And who give? We Gambians, we give. Don't look at it. And when you give to a corrupt official, you are also surrendering your right to that person. You are empowering that person to control you in a way that is wrong. But corruption, fighting corruption must start at the top, because it is the top that has the capacity to do so. Tomorrow you'll get the money also. So ladies and gentlemen, our Congress is taking place this Friday. Thursday, Friday, 28, 29 at Farafenni. We are hosting in Farafenni. We invite everybody to come to the opening ceremony, and of course the delegates will stay. This is going to be our 5th National Delegates Congress at Farafenni. We are going to take stock of what has happened. We know we are a party that is aiming to grow. We know our challenges. We know the reasons why, some of the reasons why GMC has not done well as it should. I will admit that there have been some leadership failures, and it is necessary that we have reinvigorated leadership that will be able to redirect the energy of GMC towards becoming the great party that it should. We are aware that we have difficulty attracting massive membership, and we know some of the reasons why some of these are not taking place. But we also acknowledge that government from where there is opportunity. If there is a likelihood that GMC will form the next party, because selfishness and opportunism. We are all chasing palazzo. Ning GMC chance of the sound government formula. Many are going to attack Gambia well away in. So we need to look at our internal political system as well, our political orientation. But of course, we are not giving any excuses. All I'm saying is that GMC as a political party also has issues, just like all political parties. And we will work on those issues. We need to grow. We need to work on some of the reasons why we are not growing. And we need to expand. We are not able to do so, and we need to work on some of the reasons why we are not expanding. We need to be more active in the political space. And we need to do things that will make us be more active on the political space. There's so much that we can do, and it's going to be, soul searching. It's going to be a frank discussion, and I think we'll come out better and stronger, without doubt. So I want to thank all of you, and I will take some questions now.
Thank you, Mr. Fati. You made mention of a lot of things. In fact, you revealed issues that happened in your tenure as minister.
Right.
Essentially, the development of immigration policy, which is very key. My question will be on within that area, because you said plans were underway to ensure that immigration officers were taken abroad to serve as, to at least facilitate the availability of documents for Gambians around the world. So is it that your successor failed to follow your footsteps, or what went wrong?
Well, this was an idea I had discussed at the top level, and I had clearance to go ahead. And as such, the ministry was in tune to achieve that, that vision, that goal of placing immigration officers at every embassy or consulate of the Gambia, wherever. Because in fact, my argument, when I had discussion with my colleague, the Honorable Lucino Dabo, as foreign minister at the time, what I did tell him was that it is in fact the law of the Gambia that nobody can issue those documents except an immigration officer. And it is necessary to implement a Gambian law that officers who are authorized by law issue those documents. And it is the immigration department. They are statutorily charged with issuing those documents. So if you allow a normal diplomat to do so, you are violating Gambian law. And we should set a better example. So I thought that, at the time, the Minister of Finance, Ahmad, also accepted the idea because it found the resources, invest money, meaning sending people out there and paying for them, accommodation and all this sort of thing. But the ministry was going to present a budget, was going to discuss with the finance ministry. And so we are putting the whole government into this process so that we can have it. And it was there as a policy, which was in the making. And we were working on the groundwork, the elements necessary to make it work. And so when I left, it didn't continue. I won't be able to answer why.
Anyway,
I cannot answer the question why.
Okay, still, you are among the architects who crafted this recent police document, I believe, with DECA or other.
The national security policy.
Yes.
Yes.
So does it embedded this strategy of yours of deploying immigration officers outside?
Well, the spirit of it captures it because, national documents are security sensitive. National documents are security. They are vital documents. Documents of citizenship. Any person who is in possession of a Gambian ID card or passport will be treated a Gambian anywhere in the world, even in the Gambia here. So it is important that it gets into the right hand and not the wrong hand. So it's a security consideration. And I was very much aware of that at the time. And that was why when I came as Minister of Interior, the first thing I did was to suspend all ID cards. All that I found there. I suspended every ID card, in fact cancelled them. I stopped using ID cards. Because at the time I instructed my technicians, the ministry and the immigration department, to look at how well can we protect the integrity of national documents, nationality documents. And unless we are able to clean it, it was very nasty and dirty. Unless we are able to clean it, we are not going to issue any new passports or any new ID card. So we stopped the period of, there was a period where we were working on sanitizing this process. It was difficult because there was so much pressure on me to allow people to have passports, to do things, but the most important thing is anything you must do very well, not just really well. So I resisted the pressure and we worked on to create a new policy on national identification system. We even proposed, one of the proposals we have now is this new birth registration of Minister of Health. We have a new birth registration at the Minister of Health. This is really, we are working in conjunction with the minister at the time to create things like that. So it was part of our effort of protecting Gambian identity and Gambian issued documents, national documents. Because when I came, it was easy for anybody to have a passport, anybody to have an ID card. And I felt that is very irregular. It was wrong. I'm not against anybody getting a Gambian passport if we are qualified for it. But it was easily available. And I tested it myself. And after testing it, I visited the immigration department under the late Director General Mu. I visited the immigration department from application center all the way down to production center, for me to see the process, whether the process was working as it should be working. Because I commissioned an officer to apply for a Gambian passport with irregular documents, and he was able to bring me a passport. And I knew the system is faulty. That's why I visited the immigration department and had a meeting with them and suspended the issuance of passports at the time. That's what we did. Well, I left the ministry, and subsequently we have what is called, the new system that is coming right now. So that is it. And I have no comment on that. I will not comment on the new system.
Ahmad from the Standard newspaper.
Yes, Ahmad. Omar.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Like my colleague said, you have touched on a number of issues, but I have several questions as well for you. But I'll start with where you stopped, the issue of corruption. Do you think the country is in a proper path to development? And of course, there has been a lot of reports of corruption in government, and like you said, this is across the board. But do you think President Barrow and his government are serious about fighting against corruption?
Well, I would say at least there has been a new development, which I will applaud. There's a new development. We now have the anti-corruption bill passed by Parliament. I think in terms of policy and law, this is an indication of some commitment and seriousness towards fighting corruption. Now that at least there is a law under which we can pursue corruption and corrupt practices. So I would say all that has been said and done, at least finally we are seeing some serious effort towards tackling corruption with a law, a statute. So that I think is in the right direction. The issue is implementation. Like most things Gambian, whether the law will be implemented. The Gambia has some of the best laws in the world, in the whole world. The best laws in the whole world. And we have some of the best policies. They don't work. You know why? Because we are not committed to implementing them. Gambians are very intelligent. They are excellent at producing, strategy papers, reports, and documents. The Gambians are, the civil service, my goodness. The Gambian civil is one of the best when you want to produce any document. They can. But let me tell you, this is not the civil service I want to rely on. With all due respect to the good ones there. This civil service needs to totally revamp the entire civil service. Otherwise, the fight against corruption will not work. That's what I need to say. We need a serious reform of the civil service. Serious reform. But I am convinced that the setup and the structure of the current civil service is not up. It's not up for fighting corruption. It's not. We need a real civil service reform and a real political will and courage to see this war through. Because corruption, when you fight corruption, corruption fights you back. So you must be willing. You must be willing and strong enough, the political will to do so. I know I'll be able to fight corruption in this country. I know. If given the opportunity, I will. Because
what will be your political future moving towards 2026? Going solo or ready for a future alliance?
we still have 3 years ahead. 3 years ahead. So I'm not sure my GMC, the leaders, GMC members here, leaders sitting here, would want me to say anything about our future plans at this stage. I think we will leave the future, decide the future. We will leave the future to decide the future. But it could take the various forms. It could take any form. It could be independent, it could be a party, it could be, it could be in conjunction with another political party. Who knows? It could be in any form. But I'm sure the future direction will show that.
The final one is, of course, on the issue of transitional justice. This was something that you started.
That's correct.
As a Minister of Interior, like you highlighted during your speech, with the issue of course, arresting junglers and ensuring that they don't escape justice. My question is, do you think former President Jammeh should be held accountable? If yes, are you worried about the President's current relationship with his party, the APRC, and more especially his recent meeting with Jammeh's family at State House? Does this have any potential of affecting the accountability process?
Well, I don't have any let me get my friends here. Finish up my friends at well, I am. Your question is about whether I believe that if Jammeh was culpable, he should be brought to account, and whether I'm worried about the President's relationship with the Jammeh's party, APRC, and meetings he had with the President's relatives and so forth. With regards to worrying, no, I'm not worried. I'm not worried because for me, I make a clear distinction between Jammeh, his political party, and his relatives. I have no problem meeting Jammeh's relatives. They are Gambian citizens. They have a right to meet their leader. And I want to meet Jammeh's family as well. I'm not more Gambian than them. So being Gambian citizens, they have a right to visit any politician or anybody. That I will not read anything into that. But I know that the President's nature is such that because Jammeh's family visits him, therefore he is going to let Jammeh off the hook. That will not be the main reason. if, for example, Barrow would let Jammeh go, it would be because Barrow wants to, not because Barrow's family came there, Jammeh's family came there. That is my assumption. I may be wrong. But I'm not worried about that. I'll answer on Jammeh. With regards to the president's relationship with APRC, that is a controversial political thing I wouldn't want to go to. I think that is really for the APRC and MPP and President Barrow. And also, in fact, I don't think Jammeh is any longer a member of the APRC. He's not in their national executive. He's disowned them. He created an alternative group that he's talking to. He gives directives to and considers his party now under represented in Parliament, in the National Assembly, not alliance. So I would say, based on imperative evidence, what I see on display physically outside the manifestation, Jammeh is not working with APRC anymore, and he's no longer the leader, no longer the supreme leader. And even at the IEC, if you go there, you will not find Jammeh among the leaders of the APRC. He's not registered as a leader of APRC. So APRC, what we have today is a different APRC from Jammeh's APRC. It's a Fawakere Tombongjata faction of APRC. So the other side is not alliance. I don't know what they call themselves, but that's how they call themselves. So clearly, President Barrow is working with APRC under the leadership of Fawakere Tombongjata, and not the APRC under former President Jammeh. And former President Jammeh has no influence, it appears, on the current APRC. So that is a different dynamic. I will not worry about that either. As to Articule's accountability, I believe every Gambian, particularly who is found guilty by a court of law or a tribunal of competent jurisdiction of committing heinous crimes, ought to be held responsible. So Jammeh's culpability, if proven by a court or a tribunal, should be one which should apply to every other Gambian if another Gambian would have committed the same crime. So in terms of culpability, I believe Jammeh should be brought to justice. That is the recommendation of the commission, and I think that commission, I would implement that. I would implement bringing Jammeh to justice, because that is the recommendation. But of course, the president has powers given by the Constitution. The Constitution gives the president the prerogative, power of the prerogative of mercy. He can grant anybody who is convicted of any crime, whether it's treason or murder or robbery or rape, any crime committed in this country. When you are convicted, the president has the constitutional authority to pardon you and free you from prison. So if, for example, President Jammeh would like to exercise mercy towards Jammeh, I would wait until the end of the process, until he goes through the accountability mechanism, and then he has his last card. I want him out of prison, and he can declare his prerogative in his favor. I'm not saying that is what he would do. I'm taking the sense of your question, whether he would bring him to justice. But at least he should be subject to justice. And Jammeh should have his day to defend himself. In fact, it's fair to President Jammeh. A lot of bad things were said about him. He never had the opportunity to answer to any of them from Equatorial Guinea or Guinea Kotor Kotor. He has never responded to any of them from Guinea Kotor Kotor. So I think he has an opportunity now to respond to what he considers lies and allegations against him in a court of law, where he would have his lawyers and other advisors present to defend him, just like any other ordinary Gambian. So he should be subjected to an accountability mechanism, and I would insist he does. Thank you very much, gentlemen and ladies. Please do not go. We have the Sanakunda